Hello everybody, Not Dead Yet here, and today I am reacting to, or at least giving my thoughts on, the very first episode of Megalobox 2 Nomad, and I have so much to say. I just finished watching it, so everything, I'm still kind of trying to process the episode, everything that's happened, and kind of all of my thoughts. I'm thinking of making this a mini-series for however long the show is active. Each week I will show up here. I don't know if I'll be dressed as Joe like I am now. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But it will just be me giving my thoughts on the episode and seeing where it goes from there. But this was amazing. Okay, it is everything I hoped it would be for a Megalobox sequel. One, animation on point. I love the character designs. One of the coolest things about Joe in this, or Nomad, I guess now that he's called, is even though his beard is grown in, the parts where he is scarred is still barren because, you know, scar tissue can't grow hair, and I think that's a really nice touch. You still see the attention to details like that. You have little references sprinkled in from season 1, like the poster and flashbacks from the previous season. The music is absolutely on point. The mix of languages too, which was something that was both in Ashtano Joe and in Megalobox, where you have people speaking not just Japanese but other languages as well. It is everything I was hoping for a Megalobox sequel. Now, what's really interesting about episode 1 is that there is no opening. We do not have an OP yet, which I'm pretty sure is fairly similar to the first episode of Megalobox. Didn't actually have an OP until episode 2, so I am really, really excited to see what the OP for Megalobox 2 is actually going to be. But I want to talk a little bit about the characters and some of the themes in the show, because one, it's pretty much confirmed that Nanbu is dead. Like, or something happened to Nanbu, and I'm pretty sure he's dead. Because one, when you see him, he's got an eye, which for those of you that know Megalobox, he definitely didn't have one at the end of Megalobox 1, so what happened to Nanbu? Like, what happened to him? And why is Joe having these visions of Nanbu? What happened between the two of them? And the wolf. The death of the wolf in episode 1 is really interesting to me, because the wolf was always a symbolic parallel to Joe, right? So does that mean that the wolf dying was the death of Gearless Joe, and now we are with Nomad? Like, sure, there is still a glimpse of Gearless Joe in Nomad, because even Nanbu says you still have a sliver of pride left, but by and large, is that the show telling us that the Gearless Joe that we know and love, that we've known and loved for 3 years, because I've waited 3 years for this sequel and it's finally here, does that mean that they're telling us that the Gearless Joe that we know and love is dead, and that Nomad is a completely different person, like, different person in the sense, and maybe this is whole, his journey of becoming Gearless Joe again, or maybe he never will be Gearless Joe again. Maybe they're taking the route of whatever happened to Joe changed him on a fundamental level, and now he will never be the same. I don't know, and I'm super excited to see it. He still has the motorbike, which is great. We still see him with that beat up old piece of crap bike, and he's still crashing it. So that, you know, again, little glimpses of the season 1 in there. It's great. I love seeing Joe in the ring again. I know he's back in the underground ring, but it's really interesting flipping the script, and instead of him being too powerful and having people have to take the fall, and him having to take the fall to people who are weaker than him, he is now the weaker opponent, and that there are stronger people taking the fall to him. And let's talk about that stronger opponent, Chief, because there's a lot to like about Chief. Visually, his face, when I first saw him, because I think he was the character at the very start where he's like, I do not belong in your ring. I thought that was a character parallel to Rikishi in terms of visual design, because Rikishi, I recognize that blockhead and busted nose anywhere. Anyone who's seen both Ashtano Joe and Megalobox knows who Rikishi is and what he looks like. So I thought they were going to have a visual parallel to Rikishi. It doesn't really seem that way, but I think that Chief is a character parallel to one of my favorite characters in all of Ashtano Joe, Carlos Rivera. The extravagant, flirty, eccentric, lightning fast, super skilled Venezuelan boxer that comes in to be Joe's new rival after Rikishi, which would make a lot of sense now because this is obviously going to be Joe's rival for the rest of the season. And so, Yuri. Where is Yuri? We don't know. He gets a name drop though. We have Yuri's student, who is now like the new champion of Megalonia. So what happened to Yuri? Is Yuri dead? Is Yuri still in a wheelchair? What happened to Yuri? I have so many questions. But let's get back to Chief, because I really like Chief. The character parallels to Carlos Rivera are abundant. One, he's extremely charismatic and extremely flirty. He looks at the lady in the crowd and goes, "I'll dedicate this win to you." He's laughing with the crowd in his corner, and his fighting style is the best, because that was Carlos. Carlos was extremely extravagant, and he fought dirty, and that is exactly what Chief does with his boop. That's a real thing that people do in boxing, and Chief does it too. Distract him with the right hand, give him the quick jab, and then stepping on Joe's foot when he gets in, and he just steps on Joe's foot and gives him the cross. Like, that's not what Carlos did. Carlos fought dirty in a different way, but it's still the same general theme of fighting dirty. There's a clear theme there too with the colors of his gear, with the Hispanic, don't call me racist, theme of his gear, with the bird and the reds and the whites and the greens and the yellows. His hat, the way he like tosses his hat, is very reminiscent of the way Carlos Rivera entered the scene, tossing his sombrero into the crowd. So I think it's very clearly a reference to Carlos, and that is great because I love Carlos. I can't wait to see what they do with this character. Also, after what happened to Rikishi, Joe needed a new rival to kind of get him out of his slump, and that seems to be what Chief is doing. Whatever happened to Yuri, or even just the fact that Yuri's in a wheelchair now, Joe needs a new rival to get him out of this depressive slump, and so here is Chief. So again, I think that Chief is going to be a character parallel to Carlos, and that is great because Carlos is such a good character. I love the charisma of Chief looking down at Joe being like, "What the hell are you doing, Joe?" The drugs. The drugs are a really interesting one because, again, Ashitano Joe was not an anime that was not scared or shying away from the horrible side of boxing, and it seems like Megalobox is delving into that too. Things like boxers being at the pinnacle of the sport, being at the top of their game, and then years later being absolutely broke and down on their luck. That happened to so many boxers because, one, they didn't really know how to spend their money, and two, they were scammed by literally everyone in the industry. Fuck you, Don King. But it seems like the show's kind of going towards that. Like, Joe was at the top. What happened to him? And how many times have we seen that with boxers? Oh, this boxer was at the pinnacle of the sport, living large, and then now he's just living modestly, paycheck to paycheck. What the hell happened to him? So I can't wait to see if they delve into those themes. And finally, the pills. Because, one, a lot of boxers did turn to drugs. There's a lot of, just look at some of the shit Mike Tyson did in his time due to some of the traumatic shit that happened to him. So there's a lot of people, and just athletes in general, that turn to drugs. Like, here he's got an addiction to painkillers, which, again, how real is that when it comes to things like football or any kind of contact sport? I say fighters, but really contact sport athletes getting addicted to things like painkillers because of the shit they put their body through. But what really interests me are the headaches, the hallucinations, because Nanbu, and the tremors that Joe gets. He's like looking down at his hands, and his hands are like this, and he can't stop it, and he needs the pills, because Ashitano Joe, a big theme in Ashitano Joe was brain damage, punch drunk syndrome. Is Joe punch drunk? Does Joe have brain injury? Is his body messed up? Does he need the drugs? Or is he getting shakes because of withdrawal? Who knows? There are so many ways that they could take this series, and I just can't wait to see it. I'm coming close to the end of my rant here. I don't really, this isn't structured. This is just me getting excited for the show, because after Ashitano Joe, Megalobox is my favorite anime of all time. So I cannot wait for this series. For those of you that have seen it, let me know what your theories are as to what happened to all the characters. Sachio, Nanbu, Joe, Yuri, the gym, everything that happened at the end. Yukiko. We haven't seen Yukiko make an appearance yet. I remember reading that her voice actress was coming back, so she will be here eventually, I think. So what happened to her? Where is she? Who knows? But if you guys have any theories, or if you've seen any parallels from Ashitano Joe to Megalobox or Megalobox 2 that I've missed, let me know in the comments below. I love this type of stuff. Who's excited? I can't wait for a new episode every week, and every week you guys will get to see me sit down and rave like this about how much I love the series. So, that's pretty much it. They're still continuing with that end card theme, and it's really different. La hoja vieja, which I do not know what that means. If anyone knows what that means, la hoja vieja, right? That sounds really bad. Como puedo hablar español? So I hope it doesn't sound super cringy, but yeah, if you guys know what that means, I tried Googling it, and then Google Translate was no help, so if you guys know what that means, let me know. Because again, like before it was not dead yet, now it's La Hoja Vieja. And, and another thing, the end card at the end of at the start of the end credits, it said something, it was in Spanish or Italian, I'm not sure which, I'm pretty sure Spanish, my Spanish isn't great, but it said something like, phantoms require a requiem? So again, phantoms, which is probably symbolic of Nanbu following Joe around. I don't know, and it's super exciting to watch. The boxing is on point again, by the way. If you guys are wondering how accurate the boxing is, it's gloried up a little bit, but not really that much. Everything from the way Joe kind of moves, and he sways his body to the liver shots and the uppercuts, everything that they do is really accurate to actual boxing that I've seen so far. Maybe I'll do a full-blown analysis on each one of the boxers' fighting styles by the time the series is over. Let me know if you guys would be interested in that. But it doesn't surprise me because in Megalobox 1, they actually went to a boxing gym and recorded people actually sparring and moving to get a feel for what it would actually be like to box, and so that they animated that, and so it made it a lot more realistic to actual boxers. For those of you that have seen the what are those storyboard things that came with the Megalobox $100 Blu-ray before round 1 and after before round 1 and after the final round, where they kind of talk about Joe and Yuri, Chief looks relatively similar to the guy that Joe originally got his gear from, so maybe there's a connection there. Who knows? But I am excited. I am super excited to find out. So until next week with this series, I was gonna say I'm Gearless Joe, but apparently he's dead. So I am now Nomad, and I'm still not dead yet. And if you aren't either, let's get excited, guys. Because for now, there's a tomorrow waiting for me, but there's always one waiting for you. So, who's ready? Who's ready for it? Come on. Hey, so I'm actually in the middle of training right now, but I realized that I didn't actually watch the official trailer for Megalobox 2, and I did in the middle of my training, so I didn't actually get my first reaction to it, but I want to record my thoughts right now while they're still fresh in my head. And holy crap, there's so much going on. Everyone's back. Sachio's back and older, and all the little kids are back. There is Mikio, who's back, which is really cool. Yukiko's back, and she's got a different hairstyle. That's great. Arigaki's back, and I love that. I love seeing Aragaki. You love to see that. Yuri is really interesting because Yuri didn't actually look older, so maybe is Yuri dead too? Is he a vision too? Who knows? But what I really want to talk about, and what really struck out to me, were these two lines here. This one. 壊しちまったんだ。てめえの手で何もかも。And this one. なおさん、覚えてるか？とっくの昔に消えたと思ってた小さな明かりが。 Because those lines really hit close to home with me. I destroyed them all with my own hands. I know what it's like to have your whole world come crashing down around you and to end up completely and utterly alone and have it be 100% your fault. as well as the light that I thought went out is still on. Let me tell you a little bit about me. About 3 years ago, when I retired from boxing, I thought that I would never box again. And around that time, I went into a pretty bad depressive slump. I went through a midlife crisis at 18 years of age. And at one point, around a year and a half ago, it was actually after watching a scene from Ashitano Joe. It's on YouTube. I'll link it in the description. I don't want to put it in my video because it'll make it way longer and risk of copyright and all that. But it was after watching a specific scene from Ashitano Joe that I realized that the fire inside me that I thought had long been extinguished was still burning. And I said that it was at that moment that I realized that I need to get back into the ring. And so I started training, and I realized in that moment that if I didn't fight again, if I didn't become pro, if I didn't get at least one pro fight, I'd regret it for the rest of my life. And I didn't want to do that. So I'm very familiar with those themes, the whole, you screwed up and, you let people down or whatever, and the whole, the fire inside me isn't dead. I thought that light was out, but it's still there. Let's keep fighting. I know those feelings. I know that sensation. It's one of the things that drives me. I go a little bit more in depth into it in a Q&A video that I had filmed. I don't know when that's coming out. But I know those feelings. So I'm really excited for this show because the themes of it may hit really close to home, which is one of the reasons why I loved Ashitano Joe, is it hit way closer to home than I ever expected it to. Especially me being a boxer. So I cannot wait. I cannot wait for future episodes. But until those episodes come out, both Joe and I aren't dead yet. And if you aren't either, there's always a tomorrow waiting for us.